A very good afternoon and welcome brothers and sisters in the Dhamma to another Sutta class with Brother Benny. I hope everyone is doing well and happy today. We will be covering Kimsila Sutta with Brother Benny today. A brief introduction to our speaker. Brother Benny is no stranger to the Buddhist community. Professionally, he is a senior VP of a multinational corporation and also a director of companies in Malaysia and in the UK. His contribution to the Buddha Sasana is extensive to say the least, and he is a common sight in our circles for sharing the Dhamma in various Buddhist centers. With his extensive knowledge of Buddhism, we are grateful that he will be sharing that knowledge with us today. So let's put our hand palms together and welcome Brother Benny. Brother Benny,
thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Can I share the screen now?
Yeah. Hold on.
Okay. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Can, right? Okay. Thanks, Brother John. So for the this is the second last session, right? For the series of suttas in the Sutta Nipata. So we're going to look at the Kimsila Sutta. This is Sutta number 9 in the second section of the Sutta Nipata. Okay, so it's translated by different translators as what good behavior or good conduct or what good virtues, right? So from the word Kimsila. Now, just a little background before we go to the actual sutta itself. So again, like all the other suttas which we have in the Sutta Nipata, we have covered so far. I think this is also in verses. So I think we're going to look through like 7 verses, right? So basically the background is that this sutta was preached by the Buddha in reply to a question by Sariputta. I think many of you know who Sariputta was. So Sariputta and Moggallana have been the 2 chief disciples of the Buddha, right? According to the Theravada tradition. So this was preached by the Buddha in reply to a question by Sariputta, beginning with the word Kimsila. So Kimsila word is like, what good behavior, what good virtues, what good conduct, right? So that's the opening sentence from Sariputta. So the story says that Sariputta actually visited the Buddha, bringing with him a young man. Now this young man was a son of a friend of his father. Right? So this young man has joined the Sangha under Sariputta. So the story says that this young man, or rather they comes from a very wealthy family. So by becoming a monk, he has also renounced his immense wealth. But this young man was not able to gain enlightenment. So he could not progress much along the spiritual path. So then Sariputta desired him to hear an exposition by the Buddha. Therefore, the question, what good behavior? So from here, you notice that even Arahants, right, like Sariputta and Moggallana, Mahakachana, and so on, all the famous names that we come across in the scriptures, they themselves are enlightened, but they don't have the same skills or knowledge or ability like a Buddha to be able to kind of train or lead some of these people to enlightenment. So only the Buddha has that special qualities, right? Well, of course, some of the great Arahants, they also have that ability, right? But of course, cannot compare to that of the Buddha. So here's a good example. You have Sariputta, the chief disciple of the Buddha, where he has this young man who has joined him. So despite all the teaching that Sariputta has given him, he was still not able to actually progress on the spiritual path. And Sariputta, being an enlightened being, so he decided to approach the Buddha. He said, perhaps the Buddha should be able to guide him. Okay, so this is the background of the sutta itself. So let's just go on to the discourse proper itself. So, okay, so this is the background, right? So Sariputta had a friend. Now you can have this slide subsequently. So I will just not repeat that. So Sariputta asked, having what good behavior, right? So that's the background. And then the Buddha reflected, why is it that Sariputta, who's already enlightened, half a month after he was ordained, asked such basic questions, which is appropriate for a beginner in the practice. So initially, when Sariputta asked that question, the Buddha was thinking, why is Sariputta asking such questions? Because Sariputta is really enlightened. In fact, after he was ordained, less than a month, he became enlightened. So then the Buddha initially was reflecting, why was Sariputta asking that questions? Then Sariputta, the Buddha directed his attention to the matter and understood that Sariputta was actually asking for the sake of his student or his pupil. All right, so that's the background. Yeah. So then the first verse. So Sariputta asked the Buddha. It's the first verse, right? Asked the Buddha, having what good behavior, having what sort of conduct, fostering what kind of actions can a person be properly settled and attain the highest goal? So you find that in one verse itself, there are many words which are very loaded. All right, you know this term, loaded words. So they're very loaded. So I've underlined them in purple, all right, so that we will reflect on each of these words. So Sariputta, having what good behavior. So we look at what the Buddha was trying to will explain in terms of good behavior, in terms of conduct, in terms of actions, and in terms of what it means by being settled and what is the highest goal. All right, so let's look at what is the Buddha's response to Sariputta's first question. Okay, so the first verse, the first explanation, right? Having what good behavior, which means here what kind of restrained behavior, and then having what sort of conduct will be what kind of positive conduct. Now, I put in the two Pali words there. Some of you may or may not be familiar with. All of you are familiar with the word sila, right? Just as the word Kimsila Sutta, the same word sila. So what does sila means? Sila means conduct, isn't it? All right? Or morality or moral, ethics, being ethical, being moral. Like for example, we said 5 precepts. Just now you recited the 5 precepts. So that's called Pancha Sila, the five sila or the 5 morality. So when you study the teachings, the Buddha talks about 2 types of sila. So the first one is what is called Varita Sila, and the other is Charita Sila. So Varita Sila will be all those things that you do, you abstain from, you refrain from. For example, you refrain from harming living beings, you refrain from stealing, you refrain from sexual misconduct, you refrain from lying. So all that is sila, but falls under the aspects of Varita Sila. So our 5 precepts, isn't it? Is Varita Sila. But the Buddha does not only talks about Varita Sila, he also talks about Charita Sila. The word Charita, you know, from the Malay word Cara, the way. So what is a positive way? So instead of not harming beings, instead of not killing, we practice generosity, or we practice loving kindness, we practice compassion. Instead of not stealing, not taking things which are not given, we practice what? We practice generosity, we practice giving, isn't it? So all those will be the opposites of the negative aspects of sila. Okay, so here the Buddha was talking about both Varita Sila and Charita Sila. So he asked it, so the Buddha explains, having good behavior, like for example, if you follow the 5 precepts, you are said to have good behavior. While that is very good, but that's not good enough. All right? So keeping the 5 precepts is good, is essential, is necessary, but by itself is not good enough. Right? Not enough. Why? Because we must always do the Charita Sila aspects. Instead of, for example, just avoiding harming other living beings. Instead of just practicing a behavior where you do not take things which do not belong to you, or you just behave in a way where you do not lie, which is very good, of course. But that's just half the spiritual life. The other half is when we put into practice what is called Charita Sila. So instead of not harming living beings, instead of not killing, what do? We must always practice generosity or kindness or loving kindness and so on, compassion. All right, so here the Buddha was trying to explain that in our behavior, so here behavior is defined as the what not to do, and the conduct will be what we should do. Right? So the positive behavior and the negative aspects of the positive. So okay, so these are the first two. And then he says fostering what kind of actions. So developing what actions of the body. So later we will see in the, I think you're all familiar, the 10 wholesome actions, the 10 unwholesome actions, right? Through the body, through the speech, and through the mind. Okay, so here the Buddha is telling Sariputta, fostering what kind of actions that are developed through the body. Okay? And then he says, can a person be properly settled? Now, settle here means properly established in the Dhamma. Right? Established in the Dhamma. And obviously, attain the highest goal is to attain arahantship. Right? To have attained the fourth of the 4 stages of enlightenment. Okay, so this is the Buddha's explanation for verse 1. Okay, so having what good behavior, having what sort of conduct, fostering what kind of actions, can a person be properly settled, that means being grounded in the Dhamma and attain the highest goal. Right? So the highest goal is when one is free from greed, free from hatred, and free from delusion. So this is verse 1, Sariputta asks, and this is what the Buddha explained. Okay, then let's look at verse 2. Then the Buddha continued. Buddha says, one should be respectful towards elders, right? Without envy. One should know the proper time for seeing one's teachers. And when a Dhamma talk is occurring, one who knows the occasion should listen carefully to well-spoken words. So again, you see this verse, there are a lot of words, a lot of loaded words. Short, three lines, but there are a lot of loaded words. So when we study the suttas, so it's very important for us to understand each of the words there. Okay, so what I've done is to highlight those words in purple, and then we will go through what is meant by one should be respectful towards elders without envy. One should know the proper time. What do I mean by proper time to see one's teachers, right? Is there such a thing as improper time, right? And when a Dhamma talk is occurring, one who knows the occasion, so there must also be an occasion, should listen carefully to well-spoken words. So what do you mean by listen carefully? So the more important, how do we listen carefully? And what are known as well-spoken words? When are words considered as well-spoken? Okay, so this is the second verse that the Buddha replied, right, to Sariputta. Okay, let's look at each of these words. Now the explanation: respect towards elders. Okay, so the next slide in the commentaries, it explains that different types of elders, 4 types of elders. Right, we'll come to that. But let's look at each of the word that is meant there. Now, without envy means respectful and no envy. That means you're not envious, not jealous over their gains and other benefits that they get. So when you see your teachers, for example, you have respect for them. At the same time, you are also very respectful, and you don't feel jealous or envious because they have attained so much, so high in terms of their spiritual, or because they have so much support from lay disciples, from other people to come and support them. So you don't have that mental state of envy in you. All right. So the Buddha says that's the second one. And then the proper time. When is the proper time? Which means the right time to see elders to overcome defilements. Right? So it is said that the proper time would be like, for example, when the monk is meditating, you don't go and disturb him and start asking him questions, or when he is chanting, you don't ask him questions, or when he is taking a nap, maybe taking a rest, so let him rest, right? So it doesn't mean that just because it is important for you to ask the Dhamma, you just barge into the room, of the monk, and then say, okay, Bhante, please tell me the Dhamma. So you must have a right time. So you see, the Buddha gave very practical advice. So there's a proper time. Yeah. So there are all these basic examples. And then he gave a Dhamma talk. So what is a Dhamma talk about? So the Dhamma talk is it a talk where you get all excited about? Is it a talk where you spend half the time laughing away because there's so many jokes in the Dhamma talk, right? All right. So some people say that, oh, I'm not going to go for that talk because this speaker his talk doesn't have jokes. So it's not a very interesting. Of course, maybe for beginners, it is necessary for us to to intersperse our talks with some light moments or some wholesome jokes, maybe. All right, not dirty jokes, right? So have some right. So just to make the session a bit more light, right? So of course, the other extreme is sometimes you may have heard or you may even have seen when, especially sometimes some monks, when they give a Dhamma talk, they don't even have eye contact. They don't even want to look at you. They put a fan in front of their face, right? So as a result, you cannot even see their face. And maybe when they talk, and then the sound is already blocked by the fan, so you can even hardly hear what he's saying. All right. So maybe that's the other the other end of the spectrum. Okay. But basically, in this Kimsila Sutta, when the Buddha talks about what constitute a Dhamma talk, in other words, a Dhamma talk that talks about serenity and insight. Now, what is serenity and insight? Basically, it's a talk about samatha and vipassana. So serenity is samatha and insight is vipassana. So it's basically, when you listen to a Dhamma talk, it's supposed to help you how to build concentration, how you're able to see things in a better perspective, right? So when you listen to a Dhamma talk, at the end of it, you're able to develop good concentration. So that is serenity. So after you listen to a Dhamma talk, you see things in a much clearer perspective. You understand the nature of impermanence. You understand that yes, dukkha is a fact of life, right? And then you realize why it's so important for us to practice loving kindness, for us to practice compassion, because there's so much dukkha in this world, right? So then you understand, so that is true insight. That means you see things as they really are, right? Okay, so that's what a Dhamma talk should constitute, right? And you know the occasion. Why is the occasion? Because it is rare to get such an opportunity. Right? In the Buddha's teachings, he said that it is very rare to be born as a human being, isn't it? It is even more rare for one to be able to get in touch with the Dhamma. And even more rare for us having got in touch to the Dhamma to be able to practice and to sustain ourselves in the Dhamma. Right? So now that I think all of us have this opportunity to listen to a talk on the Buddha Sutta, I think that's quite a rare opportunity. Yeah, so we should all be thankful that we have the opportunity to get to understand another of the Buddha's many discourses. Okay. So again, if you remember, I always flash the first slide from His Holiness the Dalai Lama. It's not so important who gives that talk. Yeah, who gives the talk actually is not so important. More important is what has been said during the talk and how much you are able to bring back and then put it into practice, having digested it, and then tell yourself, yes, this is the Dhamma. This is something that will be beneficial for me, and this is something that I could put into practice. Okay. So what is more important again is not the person, but what you hear and then the meaning of what you hear. Right? If you still remember, I always like to flash that 4 reliances from His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And then having listened to a Dhamma, how should you listen? So you listen carefully to well-spoken words. So listen to both the talk and other words being said. So in other words, you listen to the talk, the other words means like, what is the implications of that talk? How that talk you can actually apply in your everyday life. So you see, each of the words that the Buddha gave, like elders, like envy, like proper time, what is the Dhamma talk, the occasion, how to listen carefully, what is well-spoken words. So all those things we can actually analyze it. Okay, so some of you may or may not know there's also a form of meditation called analytical meditation. So you actually reflect on the Buddha's words, and then you analyze the meaning of the Buddha's words. Okay. Now, let me just explain a little bit, because here I mentioned about 4 types of elders. Yeah. So I just, this is, for example, in the commentaries, it says the elder in wisdom. So the elder in excellent qualities, the elder in society, the elder in age, right? So elder in wisdom would be, say, a young monk, more learned than elderly monks with little learning, and is able to teach senior monks. So you see, even in the Buddha's time, of course, the seniority of the monk is based on the number of years he's in monkhood, right? Which they call vasa, how many vasa he has. But he may have 50 vasas or 30 vasas, but he may have very little knowledge. All right, but still we respect him. It doesn't mean that because he doesn't have knowledge, we don't respect him. So whereas someone who is very young, maybe he only have 5 vasas, right? He may be a young man, but he's very learned. All right, so and he's able to teach the senior monk. So he's considered an elder in that sense, right? He's considered an elder, right? And then the other one is elder in excellent qualities. So a young monk with realization and can guide older monks. So again, someone may be in the robes for many, many years, or he could be in the robes in old age, right? And then here comes a young monk. But this young monk, after practicing for a while, he has some realization. So because he has realization, he can guide other old monks, right? So that is called an elder in excellent qualities. And then there's an elder in society. Of course, this is during the Buddha's time, right? So one appointed a Khattiya. The Khattiya is, I'm sure you know, in the Indian caste system, in Indian society, I think even today, they still have semblance of that. You have got the Brahmin class, the priestly class, and then you got the warrior, like the Buddha was born into the warrior caste. So this is called the Khattiya, which is Pali. So if you maybe, when you were studying history, when you were in school, you studied about the Indian caste system. So you have the Brahmin, and then the word that we use, I think in our history book, would be Kshatriya, right? So that would be in Sanskrit, right? Which means the warrior, right? So one appointed a Khattiya. And then elder in age, whoever is born first, right? So if you are 70 years old, and then another person is 50 years old, of course, the person who is 70 years old, he's an elder in age, all right? But not necessarily elder in wisdom, okay? All right. Okay, so here in the commentaries, the Buddha talks about the 4 types of elders, right? So one must not be envious of the elders over their gains and benefits, right? So just because they have been a monk for many years, and then the lay people support them, so they have a lot of requisites, you know, so we should not be envious of them, right? You know, like for example, in some societies, you know, when the monks, they go on their alms round, you know, the monks who are known to the lay followers tends to get better food, tend to get more food. All right. Those who just became a monk, nobody knows them. They don't even wonder who that person is. Whatever is left over, they give it to him. Okay. All right. So one should not be envious of the elders over what they have gained and the benefits. Right? So here the Buddha was very egalitarian in that sense, right? Now, there's another sutta here called the Tahara Sutta. Some of you may have heard, so I just highlight this so that after this you can go back and then Google this discourse and then read it. So here the Buddha says 4 things should not be looked down on or belittled because they are young. Yeah. So what for? This is very interesting discourse here. A prince or princess, a snake, a fire, and a monk. All right. So then in the sutta, the Buddha also explained why is it that you should not look down on the prince, because he said, look, you look down on the prince, you try to belittle the prince. 10 years later, 11 later, the prince becomes the king, then you're in trouble. All right, you upset the prince. Later, he became the king, then you're in deep trouble. Right. Of course, you have to understand during the Buddha's time, it was basically, you have the monarchy, right? The prince. Then a snake. What did the Buddha say? A snake. What did he say? A young snake. You shouldn't. Some people say, "Oh, that's a small snake." Then you go and bully the small snake. Go and belittle the small snake. So Buddha said, "Well, that snake. If you go and bully the young snake, the snake later grow up and remember you. They will come after you." Okay, and then a fire. So likewise, a small fire. Don't underestimate a small fire. Like for example, in Australia, every year you have bushfire, right? Started with just a small spark, right? Small fire, but the small fire can grow tremendously, it becomes huge fire. All right, so don't underestimate even small fire. Right? So the Buddha was actually in some ways very down to earth, very practical, giving examples which ordinary people can actually relate quite easily, right? And then a young monk, right? I think in the earlier the discussion, I've already explained why is it that you should also not belittle a young monk. Don't go and bully the young monk just because he's young, because eventually he will also grow, because the young monk could also be a realized monk, right? You go and bully him, actually he's really a sotapan, then you are in trouble. or maybe even a arahan, you never know, right? So, and anyway, I thought it was a very interesting sutta, so I just highlight this for you so you can read it. It's called the Tahara Sutta, right? So, I hope by now you realize that there are hundreds and thousands of wonderful discourses which the Buddha has given. Maybe it's impossible for us to read all of them, but to our study, in this life itself, and maybe in future lives, right? Okay, we get the opportunity to get more in touch with all the Buddha discourses. Okay, so the Tahara Sutta, about the four things we should not look down on. Now, just now we talked about listening to Dhamma, right? Remember? Listen carefully, listen to the Dhamma talk. So here in the Anivarana Sutta, so again, I don't have time to explain to you in detail, so I just give you the source, so I hope that you would take the trouble and then read it on your own. Okay, so in the Anivarana Sutta, the Buddha says, how should one listen to the Dhamma? He said, when bhikkhus, a noble disciple, listens to the Dhamma with eager ears, that means he listens with attention, right? Attending to it is a matter of vital concern. So he listens to the Dhamma with a lot of importance. He gives a lot of importance. And how does he do it? He directs his whole mind to it. His whole mind is focused. How is that possible? That is serenity. That is the concentration. So, concentration is something we all have, isn't it? You don't need to learn meditation to develop concentration, right? But meditation will actually help you to develop right concentration. Am I right? Okay. We all have concentration. For example, if you watch your favorite movie, you can concentrate, right? You can concentrate for 2 hours without going to the toilet, or even 3 hours, right? You can concentrate because that's concentration. All right, but that doesn't fall into samma samadhi. It doesn't fall into the right concentration. It's still concentration. Okay, but if you don't like something, all right, you watch or somehow somebody asks you to come to a Dhamma talk, and it's my goodness, this guy keep on talking and talking and talking. So even if you speak for 10 minutes, you felt like it was like 2 hours, because you're not able to concentrate. Okay, so directing his whole mind to it. So on that occasion, these 5 hindrances are not present in him. So it is said that when you concentrate on the Dhamma teaching, the five hindrances are not present in him. What are these 5 hindrances? The sense pleasures, your ill will. Obviously, if you are listening with concentration and awareness to a Dhamma talk, how could there be sense pleasures? Right? How could there be greed, for example? How could there be ill will? There's no sloth and torpor, right? There's no restlessness, and there's no doubt, because you listen to it, and then whatever you listen, you contemplate on it, understanding arises. So insight arises. So that's why it says serenity and insight. So I hope you can see that linkage. Yeah. So if you concentrate on a Dhamma talk, on a Dhamma teaching, all right, so it said that the 5 hindrances will not be present in you. Instead, what happens is it helps you to cultivate the 7 factors of enlightenment. What are the 7 factors of enlightenment? Of course, we don't have time to go through it, but very quickly, the first one is, of course, mindfulness, isn't it? All right. If there's no mindfulness, how are you going to concentrate? That is why right mindfulness and right concentration, they come like a pair, right? Right concentration, right mindfulness. So you must have, so as a result, you have mindfulness, and then you learn to investigate the Dhamma Vichaya, right? Dhamma investigation. And how do you do that? You need to have energy. You need to put in effort. All right. If you do that, joy arises. So the result, you get joy. Piti, joy arises. Is that when you listen to a Dhamma talk, then you realize, oh, what the Buddha said is so true. And then you may even smile to yourself and say, oh, now I understand why the Buddha said that. Right? So joy arises. All right. This joy is not the joy, that you watch a movie because the hero managed to save the lady from the bandit, not that kind of joy. But this joy is because you realize, oh, what the Buddha said is so true, so joy. Right? When there's joy, there's also some tranquility in the mind, right? And when there's tranquility in the mind, then there's concentration. Right? And finally, when there's concentration, you learn to develop equanimity. Then you see things as as balance, right? Equanimity means see things as balance. So all this is a result when you listen to the Dhamma talk. Right? Of course, the details, please read the Anivarana Sutta. Right? So I'm just giving you a snippets of what you can find in the Anivarana Sutta. Right? So it talks about why the 5 hindrances would be absent, and then instead you actually give rise to the 7 factors of enlightenment. Okay, so that is the importance of listening to Dhamma. Now, there's another one I'm not going to go through because of time. So, in the Samatha Niyama Suttas, actually, this is a series of suttas, right? 151, 152, 153. Right? This is in the book of Anguttara Nikaya. So it says, when you listen to a Dhamma, you do not belittle the lessons. This lesson. What is the speaker going to talk? Four Noble Truths. Oh, that one I've heard so many times really. Very easy one. There are 4 Noble Truths. Only 4 only. So no problem. So you do not belittle the lesson. Do not belittle the speaker, right? Oh, that speaker, he doesn't know what he's talking about, he might, maybe you say, oh, I don't think he has reached any jhanas, so he doesn't know what he's talking about. So you belittle the speaker. And you do not belittle yourself. You do not say, this type of talks, I don't think I can understand. It's too deep, it's too profound, So nothing is too profound in the Dhamma. You take the first step slowly, you really can understand bit by bit. All right. Listen without agitation. You listen with some patience. You don't, for example, agitation means, when the speaker starts, the next thing you say is, hey, how long is he going to talk? They keep on looking at your watch. Why why the time is moving so slowly? So listen with the agitation, listen with the one-pointed mind. So you listen with concentration, just focus. Whatever he says, listen to it, reflect on it, contemplate on it. Right? And wisely, intelligently, listen without conceit. Don't have that feeling, whatever the speaker has said, I already know this, I already practiced. Why is he talking about first jhana? I'm already probably second or third jhana. So there's a lot of conceit, a lot of conceit. And listen with false pretense. False pretense means, when you listen, everybody is sitting, calmly listening, you want to pretend to show that, you are a great meditator. So you sit, you try to close your eyes, try to listen. After a while, before you doze off. All right. So false pretense. So be natural, be yourself, right? And listen without hostile mind. Right? Don't, especially, if the speaker says something you don't agree with, don't be hostile. Don't go and challenge him by scolding him and things like that. Don't be hostile. And listen without a fixed mind. Have an open mind. All right. If the hostile mind means you get a lot of ill will and anger. A fixed mind means you will not listen. Right? You say, I don't think that's true. That's not what I understand. So you always think that you are right. So whereas in Buddhism, you always say, ehi pasiko, isn't it? Come and see, come and understand, come and find out for yourself. So again, in the Samatha Niyama Sutta, Buddha gave guidelines how to listen to Dhamma. Right. So again, I think all these things, I've given you the sources, so please go back and then Google these discourses. Right. Okay, verse 3. Okay, verse 3, the Buddha says one should go to teachers at the proper time, having dropped one's pride with a humble manner. One should recollect and practice the meaning, the Dhamma, self-control, and the spiritual life. So again, I've taken the liberty to underline in purple here, so that we can go through what it means. Proper time, all right? I think just now I mentioned, not when the elder is chanting or meditating or on arms round, right? The Bante is on arms round, and then you keep on asking, Bante, can you please tell me about the 4 stages of enlightenment, and the monk is on his arms round. So that's not the proper time for you to ask him. Okay, having dropped one's pride with a humble manner. I mean, you dispel conceit, right? You approach him meekly. You approach him with a lot of humility. Right? You approach the teacher. Recollect and practice. Okay, this is very important. You see, the Buddha about recollect and practice. Okay, so spiritual life is about studying the Dhamma and practicing them. Sometimes the problem is you have people who only study the Dhamma, but they don't put it into practice. Like some scholars, some great scholars, they may even have PhDs in Buddhist studies, but they don't practice the Dhamma. You ask them, do you know about the 5 precepts? Oh, they can recite to you the 5 precepts very well. But do they practice the 5 precepts? Oh, that's not for me. That's for the Buddhists. So while they are Buddhist scholars, but they are not practitioners. Right? So they study the Dhamma. They can recollect the Dhamma, but they don't practice. Okay. And then on the other hand, you have got people who say, I only practice. I don't want to study the Dhamma. Then the question is asked is, what is it that you're practicing if you don't study? Because if you don't study, then how are you able to understand? It's only through studying that you understand. When you understand, then you put into practice. Okay. All right. So and in some of the Buddha's teachings, also the Buddha talks about the importance of having both study and practice, isn't it? For example, the Buddha says, pariyati, patipati, and pativeda. You heard of this word, right? Pariyati, patipati, and pativeda. All right. Those of you who are from USM, the USM Buddhist Society, that's the motto. Right? Pariyati, patipati, and pativeda. So, well, of course, they may have changed that. It was many years ago. So I'm not sure if that they still have that as their motto, right? So it means that you study the Dhamma, you practice the Dhamma, and then you can realize the Dhamma. So here in the Kimsila Sutta, you find the Buddha mentioning this to Sariputta. You have to recollect. Recollect means to remember. How can you remember something if you don't study it? All right, so you have to study. So studying is very important. Okay, and then the meaning. So the meaning of his statements. Remember in the if you still remember when we first started, I gave you these slides. When you rely not just on the proof, when His Holiness says rely, the third line, rely not on the provisional meaning, but the definitive meaning of the word. Rely not on the intellectual understanding of the definitive meaning, but on direct non-conceptual experience of it. Okay, so something for us to reflect on, right? Okay. So the meaning of the statements, right? Because in Buddhism, we always say that there are two aspects of understanding a particular concept, if you like, right? Or doctrine or teaching, right? The Dhamma. What is the Dhamma here? Here in this means the textual teaching, what the Buddha has taught us. So that's the Dhamma. So this word Dhamma has got so many meanings, right? So many meanings. Dhamma can mean phenomena. Dhamma can mean anything that's real. Dhamma can also mean Nibbana. But Dhamma in this context means the teachings of the Buddha, right? So it has got different meaning, different shades of meaning. Okay. And self-control means good behavior, right? Good behavior. Okay. So this is self-control. So all this will lead to the spiritual life. So what is the meaning for Dhamma? Is the textual teachings. And today we say the Dhamma will be the text. For example, if you follow the Pali tradition, then there's the Pali text. If you follow the Mahayana tradition, maybe you refer to the Sanskrit text, right? You follow the Tibetan tradition, maybe you refer to the Kanjo and the Tanjo, all right, both the Tibetan canonical text as well as the commentary to the canonical text, right? So we have plenty of all these textual teachings. Okay, now here the Buddha talks about teachers, right? About the elders. So who is a good teacher? So in the Lohika Sutta, Buddha says a good teacher is someone who must not desire any sort of recognition from his pupils, nor must he seek fame. In his search for spiritual welfare, he must delve deeply and only teach others what he himself has already put into practice. Okay? He must not be discouraged if rejected by his pupils, but maintain equanimity and presence of mind. Okay? So if you're looking for a teacher, then make sure that this teacher has got these qualities. And how do you know whether he or she has such qualities? It's only after you associate with him or her for a period of time. If you don't associate with him for a long period of time, you will not know. Okay? Okay? But your attitude towards a teacher should also not be an attitude of trying to find fault with him, or trying to look for his faults. So each time when you go to a teacher, your main attention is to see whether he has got any sort of recognition or not. That should not be the right attitude. Right? Okay, so one has to cultivate some positive mental approach. Okay, but if the teacher doesn't have such practices, then he bears the karma, not you. So you don't have to worry too much about it. But anyway, if you're interested in this, read the Lohika Sutta. Right? This is Sutta number 12. Okay, let's look at verse 4. Delighting in the Dhamma, delighted with the Dhamma. Firm in the Dhamma, knowing how to judge the Dhamma, one should not engage in talk that corrupts the Dhamma, but should be guided by genuine, well-spoken words. Okay. So Dhamma. So again, I think I mentioned Dhamma means the serenity and insight. Earlier on, I mentioned Dhamma means the text, right? Textual. So here, Dhamma can also means calm and insight, or serenity, samatha and vipassana, right? Samatha and vipassana. Delighted in or delighted with. That means one does not wish anything else other than Dhamma. So you do not wish anything else for Dhamma means you do not wish that having learned the Dhamma, it will make you a multimillionaire. You make you a very wealthy person. You just want to make sure that whatever you learn from the Dhamma, it makes you a better person. It makes you a person who has got a good behavior, good conduct, right? You don't have conflict with people, right? You are able to cultivate good qualities in your association with other people, right? So firm in the Dhamma means you proceed having attained the Dhamma. So you continue your practice, right? You continue the good behavior. For example, you look at the lives of the great Arahants, or you look at the Buddha himself. Having attained enlightenment, the Buddha continues. He proceeds with an ethical way of living, an ethical conduct. So are his monks and nuns and lay disciples. Knowing how to judge Dhamma. How do you judge the Dhamma? Here the Dhamma means phenomena. How do you understand phenomena? Phenomena, you see phenomena as arising and vanishing. So you see phenomena as impermanent, isn't it? What arises falls away. What arises falls away. So you judge the Dhamma in terms of understanding rising and falling. All right. That is why for example, in many Buddhist meditation techniques, they teach you to start with observing the rising and falling of your breath, or the rising and falling of your abdomen, because that is something natural. That's the natural phenomenon. All right? What rise will fall, isn't it? Can you imagine you breathe in but you don't breathe out? You can't. You breathe in, you breathe out. Right? So you need to judge. So you understand the Dhamma, so you know what arises and what vanishes. Then talk that corrupts the Dhamma, mundane talk, frivolous chit-chat. All right. So when you're giving a Dhamma talk, so we don't have frivolous chit-chat. Right. So that's the benefit of it. So that's the explanation. Okay. Now, this is something very simple to understand. In the Vajra Sutta, the Buddha said, what are well-spoken words? So words spoken at the proper time, spoken in line with the truth, spoken gently, spoken beneficially, and spoken with a friendly heart. All right, 5 things that goes into what is called a well-spoken words. Right. So again, if you want to have details, you can read the Vajra Sutta. Right? Okay, verse 5. Right. I'll try to finish this in another 10 minutes, and then we'll leave you 10-15 minutes for Q&A. Verse 5, having abandoned laughter, chatter, lamenting, annoyance, hypocritical deeds, scheming, greed, conceit, stubbornness, crudeness, blemishes, infatuation. So the Buddha gave a whole list of what would be like our defilements. So one should live free from vanity, inwardly firm. So the whole list of things. So if you hear the Buddha, he talked about abandoning laughter. Let me explain. So it doesn't mean that we from now onwards we are not supposed to laugh. Okay, it doesn't mean. Okay, let's see what this meant here. Laughter and chatter. Now you have to understand here the Buddha was referring to a monk, right? To a bhikkhu, to a monk here. So if for example the monk, the way he thought, then he start laughing, and then he practicing insight should simply smile over a humorous method, not chatter over it. Right? So there's even I can't remember the Pali word for it. They said even the Arahant has one type of smile. It's an Arahant smile. Okay, it's one type of consciousness, smile consciousness, right? So it is said that the Arahant, they don't have a very rough laughter. Well, they laugh probably, but not the kind of very vulgar kind of laughter that sometimes we come across. Yeah, but they normally smile. That's why you always see the picture of the Buddha smiling, isn't it? Smiling Buddha, right? Right? Have you ever seen the Buddha very angry? Any Buddha image where the Buddha appears very angry? No, right? You have an angry Buddha, right? So Buddha is always smiling. Okay. Of course, the Chinese have what, laughing Buddha. Isn't it? There's no such thing as a laughing Buddha. Okay, even you study Mahayana Buddhism, there's no such. It's more of a Chinese concoction. Okay. Lamenting, all right, over loss of relatives and other misfortunes. So the bhikkhu who is practicing insight, right? When he loses his relatives, of course he can feel sad. Yeah, it's quite natural. He can feel sad, but he doesn't lament. He doesn't ask why must he die? Why must he go? He doesn't lament, but he can still feel a sense of loss. Yes. For example, someone said, does the Buddha ever felt a sense of loss? Does the Buddha ever felt sad? Right. So I'm not sure about whether the Buddha felt sad, but in one of his discourse, when he was talking to Ananda, you remember both Sariputta and Moggallana passed away, all right, before the Buddha, isn't it? When the Buddha passed away, his disciples Moggallana and Sariputta had already passed away. So this one occasion when Sariputta had passed away, so he said that Ananda was mentioning to the Buddha that, oh, the great teacher, great Arahant Sariputta had passed away, and Buddha said yes, his absence, it's like he can sense a sense of emptiness, a sense of loss. Right? So even the Buddha can have that kind of feeling, but he doesn't lament in the sense, oh, why must Sariputta die? Right? Why must Moggallana die? Right? He understands that's the nature of reality. Right? The moment you are born, is a matter of another what? How many years? 80 years, 90 years the most, right? Before you pass away. Right? So, and nobody knows. Right? Today we are all saying that now with Omicron, these things are so much safer, especially if we've got the third booster, probably, it's less dangerous. But just 2 days ago, one of my colleague, right? He had the third booster. He's 55 years old. He was tested positive on Wednesday. So we asked him to go back to his condominium to kind of self-quarantine. So 6 p.m. our colleague was able to get some Grab food for him. Next morning, the wife, who is in Japan, this is one of our Japanese expats. So the wife was in Japan, tried to call him, could not get through to him, so was desperate, called us. So we sent one of our general managers to look for him. No reply. We had to ask the landlord to open the door. When we opened the door, we found him stunned, lying on the floor in the bathroom, and he was dead. It's just a matter of less than 24 hours when we had contact with him. So everybody thought that Omicron is now very safe, but of course we do not know whether it's Omicron or Delta, right? So anytime we can have this loss, right? So it happens, right? Annoyance. Sometimes we get annoyed over so many things. Here in the suttas, they say we annoyed over stumps. When the monks are maybe when they're walking in the forest, they get annoyed because there's a stump in front of them, or maybe there's some thorns. So they get annoyed, right? As sometimes in Malaysia we said, he gets angry with everything. He's even angry with his own nose, right? Kind of expression. So he just get annoyed with everything, and then he's scheming. He's very scheming in the use of requisites. So he tries to portray holier than thou kind of behavior, and all his postures. When he see devotees coming, he try to sit as if he has been meditating for a long time. But other than that, he just slumbers. You don't even sit properly. So, but when people are coming, he try to put on a show. So Buddha says all these are scheming, right? So we don't have to put on a show. We just be our natural self, right? And then or insinuating talk, right? So he pretends to talk like he's a very enlightened being, or he talk like he has attained to different jhanic states, when actually he doesn't have, So he insinuated talk. So that's called scheming, right? So here, of course, again, the Buddha is advising the bhikkhu, right? He has to remember conduct and behavior. So this is conduct and behavior, right? Scheming, okay. And then the whole list here, greed for requisites, all right. As a monk, he's supposed to have a basic requisite, but he has greed, he wants more, all right. Conceit, social class, sometimes, even during the Buddha's time, some of the people who became monks because they come from different caste systems, so they still have that old mentality. Maybe they're from the Brahmin class. They think that the Brahmins are still the smartest people around, the most spiritually evolved people. So this is the conceit about the spiritual class, right? Or maybe even like today, we may think, oh, we are the upper middle class, we are the middle class. So we have that conceit, right? Stubbornness always like to end up quarreling with people, right? Stubborn, contrariness, that's the other word. We mean you're very stubborn, doesn't listen to people, always think you're right. Crudeness, here Buddha explains as being harsh speech. He has blemishes, full of lust, very lustful. Okay, infatuation, excessive cravings, free from vanity from health. In other words, he's not vain about his health, right? And inwardly firm is the absence of mental distraction. So the Buddha gave a whole list of it. We don't have time to run through it, but these are just examples. Okay, explanation. Verse 5. Now, verse 6, what is understood is the core of well-spoken words. So once you understand all those things are not good, then you understood what is the core of well-spoken words. And again, that is something that helps you to build up concentration and something that helps you to see things clearly, see things as they really are. Okay, so concentration is the core of what has been learned and understood. And wisdom and learning do not grow for a person who is impetuous and heedless. Okay, so let's see what is being mentioned. So well-spoken words, again, just to repeat, words connected with serenity and insight. What has been learned and understood? In other words, knowledge produced by learning, by which these words are understood. So what we hear, we must be able to understand what we hear so that we can analyze. Okay, so that's what when you learn and then you understand. Impetuous means behaves under the control of lust and greed, lust and hatred, or greed and hatred. And heedless does not constantly work at the development of wholesome qualities. Right? Remember just now we talked about the 7 factors of enlightenment. So to cultivate wholesome qualities, you need effort, virya. You need right efforts, right? So in the Eightfold Path talks about that. So we must be constant. We must not be heedless. We must constantly work and to develop wholesome qualities. And how do we do that? For example, you look at the Eightfold Path, right? The under right effort. There are 4 aspects in it. 2 to do with wholesome things, and 2 to do with unwholesome phenomena that arises through body, speech, and mind. Okay, so heedless. And in the last discourse of the Buddha, in the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, the Buddha says, strive on diligently, all right? Do not be heedless. Right? In other words, let us always be energetic. Let us always have the right effort. Okay, in the in the Satipatthana Sutta, those of you who practice meditation, I'm sure you've heard of Satipatthana Sutta. The word there is atapi, that means ardent, atapi. Right? So in other words, you must be ardent, you must be mindful, and then you must be clearly seeing things. So you have atapi, you have sati, sampajana. Right? Okay, so the word atapi. So even in the practice of meditation, so the ardency is very important, right? Atapi, heedless. Okay, last one, verse 7. Those who delight in the Dhamma taught by the noble ones are unsurpassed in speech, mind, and action, being settled in peace, gentleness, and concentration. They have reached the core of learning and wisdom. So as you can see here in the Buddhist approach, learning is very important before you can have wisdom. Okay, so learning. So let's see what are some of these words here. Okay, the wholesome, the 3 body, speech, and mind. So I'm not going to go through this. I think you know what these are. Through body will be killing, stealing, sexual misconduct. Through speech will be false speech, malicious speech, harsh speech, frivolous speech. And mind, we're talking about unwholesome actions of the mind, being covetous, hateful, and wrong views. All right. You want details? Read the Salayaka Sutta. Right. So it's all explained in full details, right? In Majjhima Nikaya, book of 41, Salayaka Sutta. Okay, verse 7. Let's look at. So it talks about verse 7, peace. Now, what is that peace here? Right? One who delights, right, in the Dhamma taught by the noble ones are surpassed in speech, mind, and action. So speech, mind, and action is here, right? Body, speech, and mind. And then settle in peace, gentleness, and concentration. So let's see what is peace. Peace refers to nibbana, right? Peace will be like, peace, that means peaceful, right? That means there's, why is it peaceful? Because there's no more greed, there's no more hatred, there's no more delusion, right? Gentleness, wisdom that penetrates things as they really are. Gentleness of peace is a vaccination for the wisdom of the path, which takes nibbana as the object. And then concentration, of course, concentration of the path, which is right concentration. As I said, we all have concentration, isn't it? Everybody have concentration, right? When you're with someone that you love very much, you can spend 2 hours with him or her and fully concentrated listening to what the person says. All right, 2 hours. All right, that's concentration. Right? But that's not the right concentration in the Buddhist sense, not samma samadhi in that sense. Right? But it's concentration. You cannot say that's not concentration. Right? Someone who tries to spend hours trying to develop a particular new vaccine, for example, you need concentration. If there's no concentration, you can't do it, right? Okay, so settle in means you're established in that concentration. That means you're already settled in, you're already firm in the concentration. Core of learning and wisdom, the liberation of the fruit of arahantship. That's why you talk about the fruit and the path and fruition. Remember, Magapala. Magapala. I'm sure you've heard of that, right? The path and fruition. So that's the liberation, the fruit of arahantship. Okay, so I end now, and so may all beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free of suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings never be separated from bliss and be without suffering. And may all sentient beings be in equanimity, free of bias, attachment, and anger. Okay, thank you very much. And if you have questions, we have some time. I will be quite happy to respond or have some discussion. Right?
Thank you so much, Brother Benny. So now we open up to all our attendees for any questions or comments.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Brother Benny.
Yes.
This one, this question is being asked in one of the chat group I was listening to by a layperson to a monk.
Mm.
He asked the monk whether when we share merits with the devas, sentient beings, or that, whether they can receive the merits or not after our meditation practice.
Okay.
And the monk answered that they cannot receive these merits unless the yogi has attained a certain form, a certain level of jhana. So my question is now, every time we do wholesome services in the Buddhist center, meditation, Dhamma talk, then we share merits. I think I quite understand that possibly he got some, I know he is not quite correct to say that. So my question is whether we should bring this to the attention in the chat group or not. Now, if we just keep quiet, then the other group of Buddhists in the chat group may misunderstand. Okay, so now every time after meditation, why do we transfer share merits when the devas and the other sentient beings cannot receive anything from it? That is my question. So what is disturbing me, Brother Benny? I've been thinking a lot whether to reply to this. No. Should I respond to what the monk says?
Well, okay. There are many ways of looking at this question. First, I do not know what is the reason the monk said that. It could be because he's trying to encourage I don't know what goes on in his mind. Maybe he's trying to encourage the students all to attain jhanas. Right? That could be his motivation behind it. All right. So I do not know. So that could be his motivation. That is why he's encouraging everybody. Say, hey, look, you want to share merits, then you after meditation, then you must have jhanas. Now, okay, so that's one way of looking at it. Now, the other way is, it doesn't mean that you only share merits after meditation, all right? Every good action that you do, not necessarily when you are in deep meditation or when you are seated in meditation, any wholesome action that you have done, like you have listened to a Dhamma talk, you have offered some food to the Sangha, or even for that matter, you have made some donations of some medical equipment to the hospital for 8 patients. All those are meritorious actions, wholesome actions, and you can share merits. Okay, you can share merits. If you only have to attain jhanas in order to share merits, then I'm afraid very few people would be able to do it. Then surely somewhere in the suttas, the Buddha would have said, no point sharing merits if you have not attained jhanas. All right, but I'm very sure there are no such suttas which says that if you have that there's no point to share merits, unless you have attained jhanas. Right?
Yeah.
That's quite different from what I said at the beginning. I'm also not implying that that's what the monk said, but I'm saying that the monk could be giving that example. That explanation by encouraging people to kind of develop jhanas. Yeah. You
So,
want to say
so
something?
Brother Benny, now the thing is whether we should respond to the answer the monk gave.
Oh yes, I think you
Huh?
should. You can respond by asking him number one, is he saying that until and unless we attain jhanas, our merits cannot there's no point doing merits? I think that's the first question you need to ask. Well, you ask with a sincere motivation to find out the
Yeah.
answer. Yeah, not to challenge him. All right. And then second question you can also ask him, what about doing merits when one is not in meditation? For example, like I said, should one also do merits? After one has, for example, done dana, all right, or one has, offering of food to the sangha, or you have made a donation to a temple. Those are highly meritorious deeds, isn't it?
Yeah.
Very meritorious deeds. So
But if we don't do it, I was feeling we are not doing our part to those who are new to meditation.
sure.
Huh?
Yeah.
Actually, this has been months already, but still, I still was thinking of it. So,
but then, okay, why don't you ask him these two questions, and then next time when we get a chance to meet, you can tell me what is his response.
But I don't think I will. I'm not going to ask already because of so long already.
Okay, yeah.
But I've been asking my friends. I'm asking my friends who are seasoned yogis. Say no, this like what Brother Benny said, it's not in the sutta and it's not in the Buddha's teaching.
Yeah.
This sharing of merit, as long as what you do wholesome goods and all that, you can share it. So actually, during this lockdown, there are so many cases. There's another case where the monk says when you offer food to the departed during Qingming.
During the what?
During the Qingming.
Oh, yes.
He said this guy, this person asked whether we can take back the food home or not. He mentioned something like, better not to take back, but if you take back, it's because of environmental reason, because he said some other spirit may have partake in the food. So how, Brother Benny?
Is your question whether should we take back the food, or what was your question?
Whether other spirits will partake in eating the food or not?
Yeah. Well, those are solid food, right? So spirits don't partake of solid food.
But the monk said like that, So I'm sure the person will be afraid to take back the food.
Well, again, when we offer food, like Qingming, or again, those are very cultural things, right?
Yeah.
Just like Christians offer flowers to the grave, right? So in the East, we offer food as a mark of respect for those who have departed. All right. After you offer, if you don't take it back, you leave it there. Nobody knows whether the spirit is going to come and eat, but the dogs and the cats will probably go and eat it.
Yeah, environmental reason. You take back.
You take back, and then
we used to, those days we take back, we cook and eat for few days because.
But
now you say like that. So I'm sure a lot of people have doubts already.
Well, again, you should always, when it comes to some controversy that you're not very clear, you should ask him, Bhante, is there somewhere, is there some particular sutta that I could refer to You know, maybe he may not
Yeah.
remember offhand, you know, then he said, could you check and then let me know? I would like to read more about this to find out more about what you have said, you know. So we don't have to develop a confrontational attitude towards him, but, you know, I mean, we should always respect our teachers, whether he's a monk or a lay person, but we can disagree, you know. It doesn't mean that we just accept, you know, whoever said it, right? So because whoever's maybe in the robes, whoever could say it, if we are not clear or we heard something that's different, the best way to check is to ask the monk, oh, can I know where is the source where you said this so that I could refer, you know?
Yeah.
You know, because you may have another occasion when the monk say, oh, some monks, they can be a little bit orthodox. They say, oh, you know, this Buddhist or this Chinese, you know, they go to Chengbing, they're wasting their time, you know. So again, it's a cultural thing. It's a cultural thing. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, but we do it with understanding. Yeah.
Thank you, Brother Benny.
You know, since we are on this subject, there's a particular discourse which I discussed some years back with in Sambodhi. It's called the Janu Sonin Sutta. I'm not sure if you remember that. Is Sutta, I think it's 10177 in Anguttara Nikaya. 10177. If you Google that sutta explains, it's actually a dialogue between a Brahmin named Janu Sonin and the Buddha about the things that we offer to our departed relatives. Can the departed relatives partake of the food or the offerings that we make to them? Now, in that discourse, the Buddha did not say, you foolish man, why are you making these offerings? He did not say that, you see. So even during the Buddha's times, this practice of offerings are being made. And the Buddha addressed this in this discourse called Janu Sonin Sutta. Just check the number, 10177 or something. 10177, if I'm not mistaken. So in that discourse, the Buddha actually explains which are the beings that can partake of of the offerings that we make. Okay, I don't have time to go through the details, but and I've discussed this some years ago. So please check on this, right? Since this is Chengbing Man, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Brother Benny.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Brother Ku. Any more? We are one more question.
Yeah, maybe
We
one
can
last
open up to one more last question. Anyone or any comments or any opinion or comments from the floor?
Yeah, any violent objection to what we have been discussing? We've heard some other perspectives. Okay.
But no, it's not a question. I just want to relay my, after 2 years we didn't get to do Chengbing, but that day last week when I went to Chengbing my parents, when I stand in front of their tomb, somehow, don't know, I feel so relieved that I get to be back there again with them.
Sure.
Yeah. So I feel so relieved, and I can actually something like I'm not sure, maybe after 2 years maybe I miss them a lot, and then I really like I can talk to them just like but I don't know, maybe it's after 2 years for so long already, but yeah, if you have a chance, whether it's cultural or whether it's religious or whatever or spiritual, I think it's good to be back in front of them again. But this is what I feel. I really I feel so good, whether I'm not sure. So I have this feeling. So actually I would like to share with all of you that if you all have a chance, please please do that. But actually it's my feeling, I don't know. Yeah, I just want to share this with all of you, but I'm not sure whether it's cultural, is whatever. So some people thought that Chengbing is not it doesn't matter. I'm not sure. So I just want to share my feeling.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's always good to pay respects
Yeah.
To those who
But
are-
somehow, you know, after 2 years, yeah, it's so good to be back there again.
That's good.
Yeah.
Hopefully things will get back to normal.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
All right.
Good.
Thank you, Sister
you.
Penny, for your
Thank you very
sharing.
much.
So with that, let us conclude today's Dhamma talk.